I am standing on the mass grave of 501 Christians, majority of whom are women and children that were slaughtered, literally slaughtered with swords and machetes. Some of them burned alive in their homes, and some of them who were babies smashed on the wall, smashed on the ground with their brains spilled out completely, all for their faith in Jesus. The victims of the March 7th, 2010 attack in the village of Dogon Nahuwa, located on the western edge of Jos, the capital of Plateau State in central Nigeria, are presently beneath my feet, right? So you can just pan the camera just to the ground and a tiny bit, and you can pull out. They are all here, and you can see how large this space is, right? So they were all impoverished villagers, some of whom could barely afford to feed in a day. And so many of the survivors, very few actually, could not afford befitting or exclusive burials for their family members. And therefore, they were all lumped up, thrown upon one another in this mass grave that was dug several feet deep. It was probably more than 10 feet just to be able to accommodate the population that's had been slaughtered and needed to be buried in it. And you can see how large this is. I estimate that this would be about probably 40 by 30 feet. I believe. No, it should definitely be more. From my left to my right would probably be short of 50 feet just by probably a few inches. And to the end there where you have that monument, the tombstone, that should be about 100 feet. So we're looking at a space of close to 50 by 100 feet, all containing skulls, skeletons, bodies, charred bone fragments of Christians that were slaughtered in one night by terrorists whom residents tell us were shouting Allahu Akbar and speaking the Fulani dialect while slaughtering innocent babies, slitting the bellies of pregnant women, pulling out their fetuses, pulling out their unborn babies and smashing them on the ground. Right here, I had the opportunity to meet with the pastor in charge of the Church of Christ in Nation in this community, and he has shared with us what the experience was like. And his video is contained in his interview is contained in the next video, and you can look that out. But I just thought that it is just important to highlight the gravity, the depth of the genocide against Christians that has persisted for more than 2 decades. We're looking at between 2 to 3 decades. And opponents of this anti-genocide campaign, including Muslim politicians, Christian politicians who are complicit and turning a blind eye, and even church leaders who are complicit and turning a blind eye, claim that the perpetrators of this genocide are mere terrorists who do not spare Muslims. But the question is, there were Muslims in this community within the years leading to this attack. But in the weeks leading to the attack, residents tell us that the Muslims, including members of the Hausa and Fulani ethnicities, who had previously settled here for tin mining activities evacuated the town. And because the Christians were peaceful people, they were living, they were unsuspecting, they were not anticipating any invasions, they did not care to ask questions. Of course, they hadn't involved or engaged in any clashes as the opponents or the genocide deniers are claiming. So they didn't anticipate any invasions or any attacks against, on them. But on the nights of March the 7th, 2010, this community was swarmed by hundreds of Allahu Akbar shouting terrorists who left death and destruction in their trail. At that time, I was a young reporter working with a government newspaper in the state of Benue, deployed to Plateau State as a correspondent. I had just commenced my practice as a journalist in 2008, and I didn't have so much experience covering wars, but I witnessed at least 2 major incidents and reported on them. The mass slaughter of Christians on between the 26th and 28th of November 2008, following county elections that did not favor those that claim to be the owners of the state, the owners of the country, who decided to take laws into their hands by slaughtering Christians in protest to the results of the local government elections that didn't favor them. And later on January the 19th, when another group of extremists, Muslim extremists, started riots after, during a church service. They started by, interrupting a church service in the northern part of Jos. And when the leaders of the church attempted to appeal to them to desist from their acts, which included making unnecessary provocative utterances, and even playing football, soccer in front of the churchyard while church service was ongoing, they decided to take up arms and go after Christians. I witnessed that, and I reported on that. I reported on, of course, the Dogon Nahuwa massacres. But at the time, I could not afford a camera phone. I could not afford a decent camera. And so all I did was to interview town leaders and church leaders and survivors without having to come here to document the aftermath of this 4-hour-long slaughter that happened under the watchful eyes of the Nigerian army.